Like mother, like daughter, 4 words that tormented the young woman you're about to meet. The last thing she wanted was to be like her mother. And Elizabeth, as you weave this story with the help of the editors of Glamour magazine, it's easy to see why.
It is, because when this young woman was born, her mother was in prison, guilty of the most awful of crimes. This is a story only a daughter could tell of a mother's legacy and the power of blood ties.
Through forests, mountains, and desert, it takes hours to reach Bend, Oregon, a beautiful but isolated community. If you want to keep a secret, one so haunting, so unthinkable, this is a good place to do it. We came here to find this woman, Rebecca Babcock, whose secret almost destroyed her. Tonight, she speaks for the first time about her mother, whom she calls Diane.
I wish that I could just forget Diane completely, that I could just wash her from my body.
She came into this world in the most dark and sordid way, born, some say, the seed of a monster. To understand why it has taken 26 years for Becky to come to terms with her frightening past, you must go back to the beginning.
Susan Smith has been arrested.
Long before the shocking, unimaginable crimes of child killers Susan Smith and Andrea Yates, the nation was gripped by the story of Diane Downs. The year is 1983. Thriller tops the charts. Ronald Reagan is president. Vanessa Williams becomes the first African American crowned Miss America. Dallas is the #1 TV show. And in Springfield, Oregon, on May 19th at 10:48 p.m., Diane Downs drives into the emergency room drop-off. Her car is soaked in blood, and inside are her 3 small children, 8-year-old Christy, 7-year-old Cheryl, and 3-year-old Danny, all shot at close range. Cheryl is dead on arrival, Christy and Danny just barely alive. As doctors work frantically to save them, police are called to the hospital. For Detective Doug Welsh, it is his first homicide investigation.
It was hectic. People were in crisis mode, struggling to save these kids.
Reporter Ann Jagger hears about the shootings on the radio.
What was the reaction in the community?
This kind of thing didn't happen then. Springfield, you know, it's a family place. You live there because you love the surroundings and you feel safe, and that was all blown apart.
Crime author Ann Rule will spend months in Springfield writing what will later become a bestseller, Small Sacrifices.
When there's a murder or something, the neighbors always say something like that doesn't happen here. But of course it does.
While Danny had been shot in the back and Christy twice in the chest, their mother is in good condition with a minor gunshot wound to her left forearm. The 27-year-old single mother, a divorced postal worker, tells police that night and later the press a terrifying story.
She told us that she and the kids had been visiting a friend earlier that evening. After it grew dark, they decided to head home.
We were just out, I guess, sightseeing, I guess you'd say. And the kids got tired. They fell asleep in the car, so I decided to just head on home. But I saw a road I hadn't been on before. We like to take back roads, and just went down that road.
It was on this dark and desolate country road, listening to the song Hungry Like the Wolf on the car's tape player, when she says she saw a bushy-haired stranger on the road.
And there was a guy standing in the road, flagging me down, so I stopped.
She said she turned the ignition off, and she asked, "What's the problem?" He said, "I want your car." She replied, "You've got to be kidding." And it was at that time that he pushed her aside and then reached in and shot the 3 sleeping kids.
Everything was done in a matter of 5 or 10 seconds.
She said she had her keys in her hand, and she faked throwing the keys out into this field.
He swung himself around and fired twice. One caught him in the arm, the other one I went off somewhere.
She pushed him away, jumped in the car, and raced off to the hospital. So that was her version.
Danny cried the whole way. I could hear him softly just moaning, and Christy was dying. God, all the blood, all the pain.
Emotionally, she was flat.
I kept trying to tell
detached.
her to roll over so she wouldn't choke on the blood, and it didn't dawn on me at the time that the blood was coming from her lungs.
Her behavior was not anything that you would expect for a mother who'd gone through this. Not one tear that entire night.
Sheriff's Department search and rescue teams were on the scene early this morning, probing for any clues.
Terror gripped the town of Springfield in the face of such unthinkable violence.
This afternoon, the Sheriff's Department released this composite drawing of the suspect, who was said to be in his late 20s with shoulder-length hair and a scraggly beard.
It was such a shocking story. Mothers didn't go out in the evening, and they sure didn't take their children.
While police look for a mysterious gunman, divers try to find the missing murder weapon, a .22 caliber handgun. But even as they search, police are immediately suspicious of Downs' story. Just 4 days after her 7-year-old daughter was killed, Downs is filmed reenacting the attack.
Sitting in the car is Elizabeth Diane Downs, one of the victims of this attempt murder.
I'm throwing the keys, okay? I'm throwing the keys.
Simulating,
Yes, I go like that. I got in the car, jumped in, put the keys in. I just hit my cast. Started the car and left. The car door shut itself. God.
Downs seems lighthearted, giggling, even fixing her makeup.
You can tell she's thoroughly enjoying herself. That's evident when you look at the reenactment. She loves the limelight, loves to be on stage.
Within a month, her story starts to not add up.
Right.
She doesn't remember anything.
People would see little sound bites of her talking on television.
What happened to me? What happened?
And I think they started getting the feeling that there's something really wrong with this person.
And then he swung around towards me.
She couldn't keep her mouth shut. She talked all the time, talked too much.
That's why we
In a sense, Diane was her own worst enemy.
I don't care. When this man shot my daughter, my first reaction was to snap back to my childhood, to the pain that had happened to me back then, my marriage, my entrapment by society. This man was bigger than me. He was stronger than me.
Downs' demeanor is especially startling when you consider the condition of her 2 remaining children. 3-year-old Danny is paralyzed from the chest down, and 8-year-old Christy, the only other witness to the crime, has suffered a stroke and is unable to speak. The police have no murder weapon, no witnesses, and no motive. But many begin asking questions about Diane Downs.
Why would a mother with little kids take them out for a drive in the dark on a school night?
Why does she stop for a stranger on a dark country road?
Boy, I'm a mother, and no mother does that.
Why on earth would anyone shoot 3 sleeping children?
This was a whole different kind of monster that we were not familiar with.